Morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Choosing the Best SCADA System. Ignition is the perfect fit for Western Municipal Water District. My name is Don Pearson. I'm going to serve as a moderator today, and I'm real pleased to have some great guests with us on our panel to present the project and take some Q&A and work with you on any questions you may have. As far as today's overall agenda, we're going to take a look at the problem that needed to be solved, the solution that came up for that, how the project was laid out, and after that, what results. We're going to discuss how Trimax Systems used Ignition to build an updated SCADA system that really was able to perfectly fit the needs of the Western Municipal Water District. And I'll start off today with some basic introductions on who we are, what Ignition is, who our special guests from Trimax Inc. are and what they do. Then we'll, as I said, go into the problem Trimax Systems was asked to solve. We'll discuss why and how Ignition was chosen as the solution. Then we'll see the system that Ignition was used to create and the results of this project for both Trimax and Western Municipal Water District. As I also said, we'll leave time at the end of the webinar for answering your questions. So as you know, there's a question tab on your console. So go ahead and just type in any questions you have. We also asked in advance, so I have a number of questions that some of you submitted in advance that we'll make sure to answer them too. Brief introduction to inductive automation. We started in 2003, and just a little background. It was started by Steve Heckman, who's our founder and president. And he's an integrator who basically in 25 years of being in the integration business actually had just come to the point where he said there just had to be a better way to get things done in this industry. So we're a few years down the road. Our software has been applied successfully in a variety of industries. We have thousands of installations, over 60 countries. And as you can see, here's just some of the industries in which Ignition software is being applied. We're also honored last year to be recognized by Oracle and Automation World for Innovation. We won the Oracle's Duke's Choice Award for innovative use of Java in the industrial software industry, and Automation World Reader's Choice Award awarded for innovation in SCADA information management. Just to point out our mission, because I think it does inform our decisions and our direction, and I think it even plays into today's presentation and the case study today. It's the mission of inductive automation to produce software that reduces frustration and increases efficiency in the industrial automation market. Our software facilitates the instant accessibility of meaningful information throughout the enterprise. We begin by listening, then acting on what we hear to inject innovation and unprecedented value into the industry. The Ignition platform really is for our organization the fulfillment of our mission statement, because it is a software package that was created to really reduce frustration and increase efficiency and really unleash your capabilities to really innovate inside your organizations, if you're end users, or with your customers as integrators. So just to talk a little bit about what Ignition can do. It really is everything that you can need in just sort of one powerful integrated software solution. It leverages trusted IT standards, cutting-edge web technologies, to create a unified software solution to fulfill the full range of SCADA, HMI, and MES applications. And it really helps companies, really doesn't matter what size, small or large, to accomplish that. You can see some of the things that we do here. First, web-based deployment. And those of you who know us know that with Ignition you can instantly launch clients from a central server in any individual machine equipped with a web browser. Unlimited licensing. It's unlimited so that you have the freedom to add whatever, unlimited numbers of clients, screen tags, connections, devices, and there's no extra cost to you. With security and stability, well, it's built on industrial-grade security technology, solid, unified architecture, and built-in redundancy. With real-time control and monitoring, Ignition's real-time status control and analysis give you the power to quickly analyze, easily display the status of your facility. Rapid development is really critical. It's object-oriented rapid development environment allows you to quickly create powerful dynamic HMI SCADA projects and do that very easily, and it's easily expandable. Its modular architecture makes it extremely flexible, very scalable, and perfectly fits your company HMI SCADA and MES requirements now and as you grow. So Ignition grows as you do. The idea being that when you're on the Ignition platform, you can handle whatever you have now and what you're going to be needing into the future. Our guest today, Chris McLaughlin, Trimax Systems. Richard Torres, Trimax Systems. He's the lead engineer. Chris McLaughlin is the director of operations. Trimax is a worldwide systems integrator. They specialize in electrical design, instrumentation, and controls. They're premier integrators with Ignition, have done great work using Ignition to help their clients. Nearly 3 decades in business, and I'm going to actually ask Chris if he could introduce himself and at the same time tell the audience just a little bit more about Trimax. So with that, Chris, over to you.
Thanks, Don. So this is Chris McLaughlin. I'm the Director of Operations at Trimax Systems. As he mentioned, we've been in business for 28 years now, and we're a full-service integrator, instrumentation and controls, SCADA work, design and build projects, electrical engineering, and we are a UL panel shop, both 508 and 698 A and B for explosion proof. And I was the one working with Richard Torres that put together the master plan for Western Municipal Water District, and was also responsible for the management of the SCADA upgrade project that we're going to be speaking about today.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. And let me just say we're very, very pleased to have Chris and Richard with us today. And as we go through the problem and take a look a little bit deeper into how they approach the Western Municipal Water District's requirements, I mean, obviously I would say as Chief Strategy Officer with Inductive Automation, I can't claim that I come from a totally objective viewpoint. I'm sure you can expect that. But what I can say is as we go through this that as we look at Trimax, they really have a tremendous amount of nearly 3 decades of experience with projects, and when they were looking at what to do with the water district, they did a very scrutinizing approach to it. And they took a very detailed, critical eye looking at what would be the right software. So we're going to basically give you an opportunity to sort of lay out the problem and get a sort of look at how they decided what to do first and what to do it with, and then, of course, how they approached doing it. A couple things. I'll just say 2 things on the Western Municipal Water District, couple, and then Chris, if you want to add any more to that, certainly you can. They're a water district that was formed in 1954. It provides reliable water and wastewater services to retail customers and wholesale agencies across Southern California, from all the way from Corona to Temecula. Supplies roughly 28 billion gallons of water a year to a population of 800,000 folks. So they have multiple facilities across Riverside County, and they need to be updated with a new SCADA system. So they had a 15-year-old SCADA system, no longer sufficient for needs, and that's what they asked Trimax to help them with. So with that, Chris, can you tell us a little bit more about the job that Western Municipal Water District asked you to do, and then we'll get into how you approached it.
Sure. So Western Municipal Water District brought us on to make a master SCADA plan for their district, and that includes, they have 5 main facilities and roughly 80 remote sites that are talking into it, and everything was kind of a mishmash, hodgepodge system. Some were running on Wonderware, some were running on really old versions of Wonderware, others were running on Factory Talk and proprietary, and really they had a whole lack of unification and communication. And so they wanted a single system that would bring them up to modern times, that would be reliable, and give them the kind of access to the pertinent information that they were looking for.
Great, thanks, Chris. I think thanks for framing the situation they were faced with. Let's dig into a little bit about how they wanted to approach it first. The first facility in the district that needed to be updated was the West Riverside County Regional Wastewater Authority, the wastewater plant. And the wastewater plant performs high levels of treatment through a number of consecutive wastewater treatment processes. The plant's a tertiary treatment facility capable of providing reclamation water for reuse. Brought online in 98. The design capacity was for 8 million gallons per day. So, Chris, what were the particular pain points of the wastewater plant that you had to address?
Okay, so this was the first plant after we finished the master SCADA plan for them that they wanted to upgrade. And for ease of use, they refer to it as the acronym RECRA. So you'll understand what I'm saying inside of the Western Riverside plant. And so their pain was that it wasn't really communicating all of the pertinent information back to the operations, and it wasn't basically logging in the way that they wanted to. They didn't have remote access to it in the way that they preferred. It was a little outdated in terms of graphics and use. And additionally, throughout the plant, they had just local OITs that weren't able to pick up the SCADA screens. They would just be able to see what was happening on that particular panel itself. And so there were several different things going on with that particular plant that they brought us in to fix.
Great, thanks, Chris. So let's take a look from the solution standpoint. We talked a little bit about the problem that Trimax was asked to fix. Let's talk a little bit about the solution and your approach. Tell us a little bit about how ignition came into the picture as part of the solution to this job, and then we'll go a little beyond that into the, I'll ask you questions about your 14-point evaluation. But how did ignition actually come into the picture to even be considered?
Okay, so when we were doing the master SCADA plan for WMWD, we immediately were thinking that Wonderware was going to be the solution for it. We, as you said, have been in business for quite a while, and we, since the very beginning, have been using Wonderware when it first came out. And at that time, we were writing drivers for them, and it's been our go-to software ever since that time, up until this project about 2.5 years ago. And so WMWD asked us to consider ignition and that we should at least think about it. And so we said that we would put together a 14-point evaluation of everything that we considered most important in a SCADA software, see how it went, and we kept on thinking that, well, yeah, of course it's going to be Wonderware. So we did the 14-point analysis, and it was just completely overwhelming that inductive automation was the way to go. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But at that point, we wrote it into the master plan. It's being implemented district-wide right now. This RECRA site was the first, but now they're going to be moving on to about their third site a little later this year, and it's going on to all of their new projects also.
Thanks, Chris. And I do know that when you've got such a history of successful projects and you were not, ignition is not a part of them for the last several decades, that you had to be very critical in terms of serving your customer to really take a close look. And so you did this 14-point evaluation, which I'll also mention for all attendees for the webinar today. We'll get you the full 14-point list sent to you, courtesy of Trimax Systems. And we really appreciate you being willing to do that, because you clearly had to make a good decision for your customer. You just weren't going to go off without feeling totally confident. And while we don't have time today to do the 14-point evaluation, because you'd never used ignition before, you had to look deep. We know it's important to get the right SCADA system. We would like to take the opportunity to have us go through a few of those. That's at least the top 6 evaluation points that one needs to consider when choosing SCADA systems. So as we do that, I think we'll start with just go with 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And first one being, does the software comply with current industry trends and technologies? This happens to be very important to know, because working with and getting support for proprietary technologies can be very problematic at times, can result in a lot of unnecessary frustration and a lot of unwanted cost. So to avoid that, you need to pick a SCADA software solution that keeps up with current trends in the industry, complies with modern information technology standards. And how did ignition measure up to this evaluation point when you looked at it, Chris?
On this one, it was inductive automation had the advantage over Wonderware, definitely. And there was many things about this, but some of the top ones is, yeah, it is basically SQL database driven. It is focused around that. This software is very fresh since it's been developed within the last 8 years. Everything about it is current with the trends, and it seems to be progressing much more than a lot of the other options out there. The web launched clients with zero install of that software to get other clients on other machines, and the security and the remote access, and that it can be run on Linux or Windows or Mac, and how it ties in with a lot of other softwares. We were very pleased that it seemed that they have a great grasp of what's going on in the industry right now and have kind of designed their software around what we need for our SCADA projects.
Thanks. Let's move on to SCADA point number, evaluation point 5. And for connectivity purposes, it's important to pick a web-based application that has remote access capabilities. Connectivity and accessibility, vitally important if you want a successful SCADA project. So you want to choose software that employs standard web technologies, that makes deploying and accessing remote clients easier without any extra cost to your project. So how did Ignition perform on this point?
So my answer is going to be a little bit repetitive because on many of these, the advantage, just like this one, is with inductive automation again. And our rationale for that is straight out of the box, the Ignition software is remote access capable. And back in the day, it was all about client terminals or remote desktop or some other function like that. But now Ignition has made it so easy that from any web browser, IP address, and the proper security credentials, you can log into your system. You can get it from an iPad or a tablet. You can get it from an industrial PC out on the panel. Any of these places, you're able to have your remote access into your SCADA system. And it's not just that you're taking over a computer, but you are truly viewing all of the SCADA information like you would be as if you were directly on the server. And so we thought that this was beautiful, and it comes so in handy for all of our projects and the clients. This is one of their favorite features.
That's great. Thanks a lot for elaborating on that. So let's look at SCADA evaluation point number 4. When you're picking a SCADA software, it has to have the right kind of capabilities or unique features that your particular job requires. To do it right, you need the right tool, and you want to make sure that your SCADA software solution has all the capabilities and the unique features that you're going to need to do your job right for your customer. So a look for software has to include power and flexibility. It has to have the capability for creating custom applications. You should choose software that's innovative, cutting edge, not stuck in the past. How did Ignition measure up on this point, Chris?
Inductive automation had the advantage on this one too. And the rationale behind that is similar to number 6, that it goes hand in hand with, since this software is developed in the last 8 years, a lot of the current industry trends that they've been taking advantage of are also the unique features that they have. We're very impressed with the way that the clients roll out, that there isn't that installation time or the software that needs to be put on, that it could instantly be accessed from another machine, that the designer is included with the software, the remote email and texting that comes with the base package, that it's virtual machine compatible, and how it accesses the SQL-centric platform, and being fully web-based. These are some great features that we thought gave it the advantage.
Did you find benefit from even just rapid development with our sort of object-oriented rapid development environment in terms of speed of project development?
Yes. There is some of that Richard is going to talk about when he's going into our project. To be fair, I believe personally that the development is equivalent to Wonderware. They've had a long standing time that I think it's about the same time, but yes, Inductive matches them in terms of rapid development.
Great. Thanks. Let's move on to point number 3. Does the software have good references, long-term users, and success stories? A lot of quality companies use and endorse the software. That usually means something's going right with it. So you're looking for software that has good references from companies, a variety of industries and locations, that shows the flexibility and support that the software has for its customers. How did Ignition do on this point?
We gave this one a tie or no advantage between the two softwares, and that's because, well, Wonderware has had a good 20 years or so, and
Sure.
So quite a bit of installations, and we've used them in some impressive industries also, and so they have a whole laundry list of where they are. But at the same time, inductive automation is in over 60 countries, and they have tens of thousands of installations. And we've put them into NASA. They're also at Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper and U.S. government, Helix Water District, a whole bunch of other municipal sites. We're putting it into a Livenhain Water District right now. And so there's an impressive amount of clients and industries that are backing up both of these softwares, and so you could see that, yeah, it's pretty much an even playing field.
Sure. It sounds like it would be a tie. We're actually very pleased to know that in the evolution over the last decade, because we're just going into our 10th year, that we do diligently work to try and bring the confidence level up as you've had to evaluate, and as other people have to evaluate, Ignition in the context of where we are now, where we're going, and stability. So that's a fair evaluation, and we're pleased that we're working hard on making some progress on that one. Okay, let's go on to point number 2. Software's cost effectiveness on small and large projects. Easy expandability is, I think, an important point here. Picking a software that's both cost effective, whether the project's small or large. You should choose software that has simple pricing model, flexible architecture to increase cost effectiveness, whether you're doing smaller or larger projects or a small one that grows into larger. How did Ignition measure up to this point in your evaluation?
Ignition has the definite advantage on this one. We did a comparison from just a single OIT on one control panel all the way up to a multi-site, thousands of tags kind of installation where you'd be using reporting and trending and historian and dial-out features. And from the largest all the way down to the smallest, we can make a more cost-effective solution with Ignition and keep all of the functionality. We never have to sacrifice in terms of, well, to win this project we might need to cut out this, and this feature. No, it's all in the base package, and we were really pleased with the scalability and that, when you get into the large projects, the cost difference is going to be astounding, where Ignition is so much more cost effective for that client, and we're able to do more for them.
Thanks, Chris. I just want to comment because I put this slide in here just so that the attendees could see that it really builds the point of the architecting of Ignition was to make expandability easy. So it's a modular software platform system, and it really offers an incredible degree of customizations. It's made up of individual core modules that are designed to work seamlessly together as you expand your project and use more of the modular format. So the architecture makes Ignition extremely flexible. It makes it very scalable, as individual modules can easily be updated, and they added to this perfectly fit project that you have for your HMI SCADA MES requirements of your customer. So it's designed so that it grows as you grow, and it fits the company today, and it also grows with it tomorrow. And that's really the way the entire platform was architected. Let's go on to the last of the points we're going to look at, the 14-point. And again, I'll mention that everybody's going to get a copy of the 14-point evaluation, courtesy of Trimax, when we're done today. Point 1, the cost of licensing and additional software required. The expense of licensing, purchasing additional software, it can actually make or break a project. So as you look at this, how did the pricing model of Ignition fare with your evaluation point number 1?
This was a breath of fresh air, and this was one of the most enticing features to us as a business for Ignition, and they have the definite advantage on this. unlimited tags, unlimited screens, unlimited clients, comes with the designer, comes with the historian, comes with the alarm dial-out, and all of those features. And that's all under, we typically buy the Works package for a lot of our clients, and it's all there. And that cost is so much more competitive. A lot of times this is a distinct advantage for us competing out in the market. It's also something that clients appreciate because they can get a less expensive SCADA system while retaining all of the features that they want to have. And like I'm saying, it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air because we're so used to, with many of the other softwares, of every time that you want to add on another client, that's a cost. Every time you want to go remote, that's a cost. You want to add on this feature, that's a cost. And we've gotten into that mentality of thinking that that's normal, and so you see Ignition with them just telling you can have unlimited of all of it, and it's a little bit hard to believe at first, and then once you get used to it, it's wonderful for the way that we estimate and for the way that we design, and we allow our clients to have what they want for a much cheaper cost.
Well, it's a breath of fresh air from this side to hear you say that, because I will say that the entire development of this, many discussions with Steve, our founder, and our development team about putting together a model that would accomplish what Steve wanted as an integrator. He wanted to know that when he went into a project with a client, he didn't have to worry about that ever again, that the licensing model by the server and the unlimited nature of the licensing would say, go to your customer, figure out what you need to do, and don't worry about how many tags, how many screens. That should not hinder you in any way when you're trying to be creative and innovative and solve a customer's problem. So much appreciated hearing that, because that is our intention with all of our customers, integrators and users, to say, hey, use the software, use it as a foundation, innovate with it, and don't worry about the tags or clients or anything, because it's all there in the base package. Well, with that, thank you for taking the time to go over those 6 out of the 14 evaluations. I think it's good because of your background as a company and Trimax history to see what you did to bring your comfort level up on using Ignition. Let's go into the project, bring Richard into this. What you created for the Western Municipal Water District. I think what I'm going to do, Richard, is actually let you, I know you had said that you use industrial PCs and it was important in this project. Can you elaborate a little bit on that as you introduce yourself a little bit more, and then we'll turn the time over to you and Chris to talk about the project that you developed. So with that, Richard?
Yes, I'm Richard Torres. I'm the lead engineer, and I oversaw and actually performed a lot of the duties on this project and selected the equipment and have networking updated so we can accept the Ignition system. And the industrial PCs is one that we've been using. We've played around with a lot of them in the past, and these ones, particularly for me, I think contact seems to be holding up. And they also, if you use their power supply, they give you a 5-year warranty. So that's one of the reasons why we stick to them. And now they even offer like a widescreen version of that. But with these touch panels, we were able to have Ignition running on it, and we've actually had some installations where the whole Ignition server is actually running as a standalone system. So it actually works great for like a single machine that has Ignition running on it.
Great. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to you now. So give me a second to change presenter and let you have your screens. You can go live on this and take us through the screens that you're going to take us through. So you should be coming up there shortly, and I'll let you take it over from there.
Okay. So what I'm showing you is that this is actually the live RCRA plant. I'm actually VPN into their plant. So what you're actually seeing is actually live values. Some of the movements may be slightly slow because we are through a VPN connection, but we have full functionality. I can design, I can do changes, everything from here remotely. So it really helps out a lot. We support Western Municipal in this way too, because if there's a problem, I can just log on immediately and see what's going on and be able to see is that everything that's going on from here. So I'm going to just kind of walk through show you some of the screens here that we created for this project. This is the overview of the liquids process. So there's two processes. This also has a solids handling. So, but this is the overview for the liquids, and I'll go into also the clarifiers too. So you guys take a look at that. And then here's the solids. And so this also shows some of the conveyor systems that we got going on here too. So for you guys to do material handling too, this kind of also comes in effect too. It's nice to have the automated conveyors. And then drilling down into a certain area for centrifuges.
Richard, what about the UDTs?
Yeah. And then what we're talking about, what's really nice about Ignition is I can actually see all my data here live. So if I can see my values from a PLC here, exactly what's going on. So I don't really have to go to the PLC. I don't have to open a viewer to see all my values. I can see everything here live from the designer. So it really cuts down design time a lot. I don't have to, if there's a problem with a tag, I would see it here immediately. I don't have to open up another console to figure out which tags are in error. So this really helps a lot. And at the time when we did our 14-point evaluation, it was done in Ignition 7.31, and it was actually, I'm going to take a 7.1, and they didn't have actually the UDTs or the template components. Now with the addition with the UDTs and template components, especially when you use like control objects PLCs, you can duplicate those UDTs that way you see in the control objects PLC, and it just cuts down time in half just by doing tags. So if your program is organized in a similar fashion, then you can duplicate the UDTs in Ignition. So let me continue on some more screens here. This is our headworks unit, and if I actually, some of these icons actually created, it's like a little level for like a little trash can. And here's conveyor subsystem. And what's also nice is the ability for working with databases. So this really comes in handy, being able to see alarm history, and alarm history is enabled automatically by just a checkbox in the configuration, and then you can create a table in a similar fashion to pull that data up and see your alarms, and then you can customize your table of what colors you want. So this is kind of almost like a CAN one that's actually is available at the Ignition website. You can download it. This is a little bit modified, and I added a filter. There's a filter here so I can sort out the date. And the audit log works a similar way. If you enable auditing, then auditing is done automatically. So then everyone who does some action is logged, and as you can see where I logged in earlier today, and what tags, like this person right here logged in and wrote a value to this tag, so you can see that he changed his value to the 25. So in addition, I added some filters in there, so I can sort by whoever, I could just sort by this is me, or it's sort of action. So I mean, just the ability to be able to add filters and do such a thing like that, it really gives it a lot of power. And also, you can easily export this with a button and a little simple script. You can export this to an Excel file, no problem at all. It's in with our security. We used actually a database security. So now then users, no one has to log into the console to add users. People with the right credentials can actually enter in their users as needed. And so this also, gives a lot of flexibility as far as creating users, delete users. I can add roles. I can do it all here without having to. So anyone as a client can actually do it, which saves time for me. But then every time someone needs something, I don't have to come and create it. And just the person with our credentials can create their users. Insert. Here, this is the kind of the idea of the network. And this particular, Western Municipal keeps their database off-site, so they have their database centrally. So as a whole system, they have all their initial servers actually point to a single database. So things actually work. Data is stored and then forwarded off-site. So when you do a query, it actually pulls it from the off-site database. And this actually has been working really, really successful. And also, I added some features like, you know, I created like a switch, and I'm using like an Entra and OpenSea server so I can actually monitor the statuses of the switch. So in addition to that, after the project was finished, the customer asked to add there's a weather station here because they're building a lot of homes next to the plant, so they're concerned about odors. And they purchased this little weather station here, and so this is actually a physical weather station that I pull in through a serial port that I can monitor the weather and log the data. But in addition to that, I'm able to do a weather forecast by going to Yahoo Weather and pull an XML string and decipher that and figure out what could be the highs and lows for the next coming days, and actually took the images because there's also like a code and you can match that to an image whether it's going to be sunny or not. So obviously this is California, so it's going to be, we're pretty hot down here. So it's in the 90s where it's at. And so that I mean, stuff like that is what really gives it power. And also every day they get a notification, so it emails everyone the weather forecast for the day. And I'll show you just a quick transit. So this data is actually pulled from the database, which is off-site, and you can see that it pulls it up with no problem at all. So I pretty much that's kind of an overview as far as the RCRA plant, and when we do the questions, if anyone has questions, we can talk about it.
Richard, thanks a lot. Actually, we have quite a few questions coming up in the queue already, so I'm going to actually take back control from you, and then we'll go through just a couple things on, I want to talk just a little bit about results so that we can see kind of what came out of this for now. Great information to have us go through. So if we can actually, I think either you, Chris, or Richard, as you take a look at this, what kind of feedback did you get from Western Municipal about the project? You know, how did it help the wastewater plant? Just a couple questions on that. So can you give us some insight on that, Chris or Richard?
Yes. Well, the feed is obviously after we did this, they are upgrading two right now being upgraded in process, and we're about ready to do their fourth system, and so they'll have one more left over. So they're really happy with it, and the main reason why they like this is also is because they can access remotely. So they have, you know, they don't. So it's because it's really spread out the district, and it really helped out having to access remotely of this.
Great. Any other comments back from the district? If not, we're going to go into a little bit more on the Q&A. But I have one question for results for Trimax, though, too. How did the work on this project affect Trimax, and how you approach projects going forward in the future, since you do a lot of them and have been for a lot of years?
Well, it kind of changed our view, and I end up putting in, I mean, a lot, we get some jobs are small, like a single machine or something like that, and when there's no specification, hey, we're going to put ignition into it, and, you know, and so, especially when the customer sees it, they have no problem with it. We did a little machine that went to China and was able to actually get everything, including alarms and everything, to be able to switch from, you know, English to Chinese without any problem. And I actually even created a table inside, so from a client view, you can actually modify the text that's on what's going to be shown on there. So if there were some typos or things that made sense, the customer can later on actually go through and correct that. So it was so we ended up using that every time it's kind of open and it's not specified. We almost by default we always put ignition in.
And also, even when it is specified, we've had good luck. There was a project at NASA up at Edwards Air Force Base for a flight load simulator, and it was hard spec'd another software. And we showed them what Ignition could do and got approved and did that entire project, and they loved it with Ignition. And we're doing the same thing right now for a Boeing project for a groundwater remediation system. And it was hard spec factory talk SE, and we said, we'd like to show you Ignition, and they too love it. And so we try to do that whenever possible.
Actually, that's great feedback. We very much appreciate having Trimax as a premier integrator for Ignition. You guys do really good work, and we appreciate partnering with you on that. And also, I know how busy you are, so even as we sort of go into the Q&A with the time we have, we've got about 10, 15 minutes that we can go with getting to a number of questions. So I don't want you to just cut off your answers, but try and keep them relatively brief, and we will be able to get to as many questions as we can because we've got quite a few in the queue. Just as just a quick review, obviously, number one, it's very important to pick the right SCADA system to get the job done. And after a rigorous evaluation of SCADA software, Ignition comes out as a clear winner for both integrators and end users. We know there were a few ties you talked about, Chris, but we're certainly appreciative that we were the winner and that you found it useful for your end users. Number two, Ignition is powerful and flexible enough to satisfy the SCADA needs of an entire water district. Number three, Ignition is an effective tool in creating SCADA systems in the wastewater industry. So if you do want to know more of those attendees, you can go to Ignition Automation, or excuse me, inductiveautomation.com. As we go into Q&A, I just want to make one announcement because we do have July 31st at the same time, 9 to 10 Pacific time, SQL and Midas Touch, webinar and white paper, turning time series data into enterprise gold. So you can go to our website, you can register for that webinar, and we look forward to your attendance there too. Now, as we go into our Q&A, I also had Travis Cox join me. He's the director of our training and support here at Inductive Automation, so he'll be available to answer some of the questions that go in the Ignition direction. But particularly, I want to focus on the questions that came in from before and during. So I guess what I'd say, Chris and Richard, you guys can just decide who wants to comment, one or both, on some of these. And I'm bringing these up as they came in, not in any particular order. First one from Clint Gary. What was the timeline and cost for the project? What level of IT support is needed for the transformation and future growth and maintenance?
Okay, so that's several questions on one. The timeline of the SCADA master plan was about a 4-month process, and the timeline of the upgrade of the RECRA plant was probably about 6 to 8 months, because there was a lot of information that needed to come out of them, and just typical projects going back and forth. Cost, I'd prefer not to get into just because of their interests, and we do have maintenance with them currently, and we do work out their site all the time as well as around the district. We're doing another aeration basin upgrade for them right now. And IT support, a lot of times we've noticed that the clients or the owners have their own internal IT people, and so we just work hand in hand with them to get the databases set up and to get the software online. And they're happy with the way that it is, and we get to do our work.
Great. This question came in prior because we let our attendees let us know in advance. So you may have answered, I think you did a fair amount of this, but the question from Vanamali is, are any basic control functions possible in the Ignition SCADA system?
I would say yes, basic control functions are possible, and even more advanced control functions are possible. Like, for example, our NASA project is kind of a totally different thing, but it's more of a testing facility, and since it's like divided up into 14 PLCs, the actual Ignition is actually one of the controls given set points and given commands. So it is really powerful from basic ones to really advanced controls.
Great, thanks. So this is another question from Sean Tadung, and he says security is one of the current hot issues in SCADA. How did you evaluate this issue in your SCADA selection?
Okay, well, I mean, there's always the secured HTML, but for this district, and I think most districts now are requiring double login. So most districts have always behind a VPN. For example, Western Municipal, I have to log into VPN and then log into Ignition. But we do have when we do testing and stuff, we actually have our couple of Ignition servers actually open, and you can just type in IP address and get access to it as long as you have the right credentials to get in.
Great, thanks. Here's a question on integrators. Do you, as integrators, allow end users access to the designer?
Yes, well, the designer is included in there. There is you can set up a different password. So only like you can say administrators' roles can only have access to the designer, and then so anyone else, all your users for the customers won't have administrator roles, so they can only access the clients.
Great, thanks. Here's another one. I appreciate you guys taking so many questions here. We'll do this for about, try and get to as many as we can. In this one from Gennady, he says, if I may ask, how much time was involved in creating the functioning screens we are looking at?
Okay, well, the function, can I get control real quick to show some things, or?
Yeah, I'll move back over to you, Richard, and give you a shot at that, okay?
Sure, real quick.
And you should have it there in a second.
Yeah. So one of the nice things about this is you have these components. Let me go back to run. You have these components here, and you can so you can create a component. And actually, this was done. Like I said, this was done before the template. So this was done by just making a component and making it to a group. But you can add all these buy-in properties here, which you see on my left-hand side of the screen. So you can kind of create a pump and then add your remote status and link them all together. And that way you just duplicate that and just link this to a tag. Obviously, not going to find a tag, but this is not the real thing right here. But if I were to unhook this from my tag, then I can actually even just simulate, turn on and off from here. So you can actually test all your components and stuff here from the designer too. So it saves tremendous amount of time to do that.
And probably about 4 to 6 weeks to create all of it, and it's a pretty in-depth system. You're seeing just the overview screens.
Great, thanks. Here's another one. Was alarm management a critical factor?
Yes, this system has actually a dial-out system, and this one we used. We had to integrate with another system through OPC. But you can also do it through SQL because there's alarm dial systems that can actually communicate through SQL. There are some check boxes where we created that we can enable disable alarms. And in newer projects now, since we do it through SQL now, we're able to create a more elaborate table where you can actually I have customers can change, because some customers they don't like the description of the alarm. So through a table, they can change the description of the alarm, enable its alarms, or enable disable, or enable dial-out.
Great, thanks. I'm gonna throw this other question over to Travis from James Smith. He says, does Ignition have good Linux and Java support?
Good question. So Ignition is written in Java, 100% Java. So of course it supports Java 6 and Java 7, and for the server and for the client and designer. So of course you can definitely have good Java support. Because we use Java, we're also cross-platform, which means you can run on Windows, Linux, Mac OS X, or any operating system that supports the Java runtime environment. So a lot of Linux distros, you can install the JRE, and it works really, really well. So we have lots of users now. The pie is actually getting quite bigger of the users that use Linux over Windows, just because they're more familiar with it, and it's obviously cheaper, and some people think that it performs better. So yeah, we have really good Linux support in Ignition.
Great, thanks, Travis. So this one's back over to one of you gentlemen. What communications protocols were used?
This one is Modbus TCP.
Okay. Yeah. Great. So we have. You want me to? You want to keep it, Richard? Can I take the presentation back?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Great. All right. So we got time for just a couple more questions here, and I'm going to also give you each a chance to sort of finish up and say anything you want to say in conclusion. We'll take a couple more questions and then wrap up. So one is, which PLCs were supported? Frank Lang has that question. Which PLCs are supported?
In this project there were quantum PLCs, but in the past we've used control logics, compact logics, micro logics. They were used also. We just recently did a Siemens with S1200.
Okay, cool. Actually, Travis, why don't you comment a little bit on too, because you've got experience certainly with a variety of projects over the years.
So Ignition has a lot of built-in drivers for different PLCs. A lot of the big ones are supported. We have Allen Bradley Ethernet suite of drivers for compact logics, control logics, micro logics, LIC 505, 504, E&I module, etc. We also have the Modbus TCP and Modbus RTU over TCP, and we have Siemens F7 1200, 300, 400. Those are all the Ethernet devices that Ignition supports natively. Those are free drivers that are included with Ignition. Now, Ignition supports OPC to the core, so not only do we have our own drivers and our own OPC server, you can also connect up to any third-party OPC server, such as RS, Lynx, Kepware, Matricon, etc., and you can bring in data from those into Ignition as well. So you can bring in data from pretty much any PLC. They're all supported as long as there's an OPC server. But we have a lot of people like the built-in ones that come with Ignition.
Great, thanks, Travis. Here's another question on support, actually. Does Ignition software support backfilling?
So that's a good question. I'm not exactly sure which direction you're looking at going, but Ignition we have a store and forward system built into Ignition, so that if you're logging data from your PLC and you lose the communication to your database, Ignition will cache that data locally, especially if you have remote facilities. We can cache the data locally, and then if that connection comes back up, we can forward it over to the database. Furthermore, a lot of people question if Ignition can support DMP3. And the answer to that is yes. As long as there's an OPC server that has drivers for DMP3, we can backfill the data from that method as well.
Great, thanks. And this is a question I'm just going to ask you sort of, and it's going to be a wrap-up question for you gentlemen. Has the work from WMWD project resulted in more wastewater projects or jobs for Trimax? And do you guys specialize in wastewater, or what other industries do you work in? Can you take a minute and just comment on those couple of things as we finish up here?
Certainly. So about half of our business is municipal projects, water, wastewater, energy. And yes, we do a lot of that work, a lot of SCADA systems with those. We also do work in both material handling and automotive, oil and gas, OEMs. We do stuff around the country and also around the world. And so, yes, that's the one plug that I'd like to throw out is that if anybody needed any systems integration help, they can contact us at support@trimaxsystems.com or visit our website at trimaxsystems.com.
That's great. I actually appreciate you doing that. I wanted you to take a little time to at least let it be known and plug yourself a little bit because you're doing great work, and we appreciate it. So, Travis, just one final question from you. Our current setup includes 2 PCs, and this is from Jason Hamlin, 2 PCs and licenses for our current software, each driving 4 monitors to display most of the plant and trending at a glance. Can you design and display multiple monitor screens in Ignition?
Yes, yes. You can definitely do that. There's a couple of different ways you can do it. One is you can have a different Ignition client open on each different monitor, and they can be showing different screens, and you can make navigation that will change all 4 clients at the same time. We have a number of customers that do that. Because Ignition, you can launch as many clients as you want. There's no limitations. It's easy to have more than one open. Another thing you could do is take one client and stretch it across 4 monitors. And with that, you can have much bigger space in there. You can have multiple windows open at the same time showing your information. For example, we have a customer, a trolley company in California that can see where all of their trolleys are at any given time just by looking at this application, and they use 4 monitors for that system.
Great, thanks, Travis. Any final statements you'd like to make, Travis, as we sort of wrap up? And then I'm going to, Chris and Richard, I'm going to ask you for any final thoughts you may have too.
So for any of you who want to learn more about Ignition, there's a couple different ways. You can find out more. Of course, you can go to our website, and you can look all information there. There's a really good support forum that you can go and search for people's questions and answers. You can also post your own questions to get answers to that. You can see on the screen right now, you have a number of account executives that can show you demonstrations of Ignition software to give you an idea of how it works and different features and capabilities that it can do. One really good way to learn all about Ignition is see how you can develop these screens, get firsthand experience on building projects with Ignition is to attend one of our training classes, and we have a number of them. We have the two main classes we have is a 5-day Ignition core class. It covers all the basics. It's all here in our training center in Folsom, California. And we also have a 3-day advanced class, which goes over more advanced features of Ignition. And both of those classes are offered once a month, so you can go to our website, look at the events, and I would recommend if you want to really see more about it to attend one of those.
Great, thanks. And then, so I just want to emphasize, at the screen you see Jim, Vanessa, Myron, Shane, Raman, as well as Melanie and Patricia are there if you want to have a demonstration, as Travis said, if you want to dig further, if you have questions beyond the scope here, we're happy to work with you and do anything we can to help you get the information you need so you can make your informed choice. You're also going to receive the 14-point evaluation list that Trimax put together, courtesy of Trimax. And I really appreciate all of your time, Chris and Richard, because I know you're very busy. Any final statements or anything you'd like to share with our audience as we wrap up today's webinar?
No, nothing else major, just that we are very thankful to be working with Inductive Automation and was thankful for this opportunity to talk about the projects today.
Well, we really do appreciate your time, sincerely, and thanks so much for sharing so openly what you went through to decide, how you've been implementing it, and how you're carrying it forward for the attendees today. With that, we're finished with today's webinar. Everyone have a great afternoon.